In a world where hopium and common sense collide, starring the CryptoKeeper and BlockchainCrusader. Welcome to Debate Crypto.
Question everything, trust nothing. It's your boy, CryptoKeeper, and we are here tonight on a Magic Money Monday with your boy, Forrest, and CVO Crypto. Gentlemen, Forrest, how are you this evening?
Doing well. Thanks for having me on. It's always a pleasure.
Dude, glad to have you on. And this is the first time you and CVO have been on the stream. CVO, how you doing, brother?
Doing good, my friend, in my winter wonderland. Enjoying the weather down here in Florida. So,
tell you what, the snow in southern Florida is a rare sight to see. Have you ever seen that?
No, not where I'm at.
I didn't think so.
That's too rare. We'll have some global issues at that point.
Yeah, maybe so. Well, I mean, according to our current administration, the world is dying, before our eyes as we speak, and we need to save it with electric vehicles. But that's a whole nother discussion. Crypto fam, listen, before we kick it off, first of all, smash the likes, do all the things that social media loves to see, that we love to see. We appreciate you for the support. Follow Forrest, follow CVO. We've got their Twitter and their YouTube down below the video, so make sure that you guys do your due diligence there and follow these gentlemen. They've got good stuff. There's a reason that they're on tonight. They're going to give you some alpha as it relates to altcoins. For those of you that don't know, Monday nights are kind of turning to a more altcoin-centric TA evening. You guys asked for it, so we're giving it to you. But before we dive into all of that, and Danger Close Alpha, obviously we'll talk about that, diving in, getting in the Discord, winning yourself 5 ETH, all of that great stuff. Let's just talk about the breaking news. Let's kick it off before we look at the markets. We talk about anything. CVO doesn't believe in news, but I'll bet you he's heard this one. I'm just going to throw it out there on a limb. You know what? For somebody that doesn't watch the news, I haven't even said it to him yet. CVO, why don't you tell me what the news is?
I think there's like a Santa rally or something coming.
Yeah, definitely. That's what it is. I'll give you another swing at it.
Yeah, we got the CPI data and the FOMC meeting coming this tomorrow and Wednesday, right? So it's regardless of how it goes, the timing around that is obviously impeccable to see the volume in the market basically, flat.
Hold on. Look at me. Was that a serious face response? Do you not know? He doesn't know. You don't know, do you? Dude, SBF just got arrested.
Oh, yeah. Didn't know that.
Oh. Hey, listen, for those of you that ever questioned your boy CVO for not watching the news, he missed it, right? And so breaking news, CVO, Sam Bankman-Fried has been arrested by Bahamian authorities. We've been waiting for it. We've been talking about it for a while. I will give a little alpha to the stream. We were going down there on Friday. So we were told not to tell anybody. We were keeping it hush-hush. We were going down there on Friday. It was myself and BitBoy and a number of other influencers, as much as I hate that word, and then security detail and some people that were affected. Word on the street and still waiting to get this confirmed, but I think we're still going to go. We've got some other stuff that in relation to that, but don't hold me to that. So let me ask. I'll start with you, Forrest. Have you been paying much attention to the whole SBF debacle?
I'd say I followed it fairly closely early on, but I haven't been nitty gritty in the details. I'm still of the opinion that, this is conspiracy that goes up the chain. Just too much coincidence. But if you ask me for super specific details, I haven't been combing through the documents or anything like that.
Yeah. I haven't been combing through the documents per se. I've been paying close attention to it. Because I love this. SBF going to be sacrificed to our secret overlords. Yeah, I've been paying attention to it because I agree with you, Forrest. I think that when you look, and we've done a stream on this, I think when you look at the money flow, we look at money flow in charts, right? That's one of the things that you'll see as you look at charting. And the money flow was effectively, and we've talked about this before, Democratic National Party going to supporting Joe Biden sending money to Ukraine partnering up with FTX, and then FTX and Sam Bankman-Fried donating to the Democratic Party. That, for many, would say is money laundering, and that money was, mysteriously disappearing from Ukraine, can't account for it. SBF, boom, is defrauding people, hand over fist. So I've been paying a lot of attention to it for that. Crusader calls me the politics keeper because I love to pay attention to politics. I think that it matters, right? I think that it's I think that it's if you don't understand how much the politics in daily life affect your financial wherewithal, then you're asleep at the wheel, right? So CVO, I know you didn't know that this had just happened. Let me ask you this. Do you believe that's because I know you obviously know what I'm talking about. Do you believe that Sam Bankman-Fried will actually be held accountable? And you said something about timing a little bit ago. Excuse me, Jeff. Excuse me. You said you thought it was interesting timing of the CPI data and also the Fed meeting. Do you think that this is interesting timing? Because I'll tell you another little tidbit of news. He was slated to testify tomorrow, and now the Bahamian authorities are hemming him up tonight. So what are your thoughts? Do you think that he's going to be actually held accountable? Do you think this is all part of a game plan? What are your thoughts?
So, once again, like looking at the news, right? So we covered this, we covered all the time, I guess, at this point. And there's nothing, I have nothing against, me personally, I just focus heavily more so on technicals and things of that nature, preparing for certain areas. And, I have the invalidations and confirmations that kind of take me to certain areas. And for me, something like just what you just said, I mean, if you're not looking at the news right this moment, right, somebody's at work or somebody's whatever, how could you effectively trade like a random, news drop like that, right? Like how can you prepare for that, I guess?
Right.
So that's just kind of like one of the really good examples. I think that like, when you throw those things out there, it's so hard to trade the news in that sense. And when you talk about like CPI and, the Fed meetings and interest rates, things that are going to affect, fiscal policy, obviously we tend to lean a little bit more into, what those kind of things will, have on the market. But I once again, I would be the worst person to even tell you anything aside from FTX like collapsing and just hearing the word, contagion and FTX debacle a million times, and the letters SBF, like aside from the average that like I couldn't tell you, man, what anything of that, like I don't even know. I know that there's obviously issues and people lost money and there's going to be lawsuits and whatever the case, so they're going to try. I just think it's noise, man. I really do. I think it's just complete noise. I think that it's going to be interesting. And I know we're going to talk about alts, but I want to talk about Bitcoin a little bit when we look at this, because it's going to be, by the time we come back on here on Thursday, we're already going to pass through, the meetings and things, and now this news. So I'll take another look. We talked about Crypto Face and I on Thursday. We were looking at certain areas, and it kind of ran through the idea we haven't had a decent pump or anything at this moment, but if you do, right, like SBF news, 50 basis points comes in, or all the things align in a positive manner, and you get a decent little move to the upside, you really want to be prepared for like what areas are important to be paying attention to, because that's the stuff that like really traps people in at the high, right? So it's in my opinion. So to answer that question, I don't know. I don't know if he'll, maybe he will. It's shocking in the sense of like with how big this whole issue is that, he's even skating through life at the moment, if that's the case. So it just really adds to kind of how Forrest said, a little conspiracy-ish. I think it's just a lot of noise, man. It's a lot of distraction. I feel like we've seen a lot of this in the past. Binance had a lot of this back in the day. Binance is actually popping back up as FUD, I guess you could say. And just through the years, you come through it. So if that makes sense.
For sure. Word on the street is there might be some actual play in the extradition process. And what I mean by that is that it's like a legal charade. I had a quick conversation with my father, who's an attorney, and he said that he believes that there are some things as it relates to extradition that will be different for him being extradited to the United States versus him turning himself in. Like he will have certain rights being extradited from another country that he otherwise wouldn't have. And so that's just a little legal insight. Again, there's probably a million other things at play there. I'm sure his parents, with as well connected as they are, probably had a heads up that this was happening. I'm sure he knew it was going to happen, right? Generally, at the level at which he was playing ball and the people that he was, rubbing shoulders with, I'm sure he had a heads up that this was happening, and there was a reason that he was arrested the way that he was. So that's kind of what it is, people. I'm looking forward to seeing what happens as we press forward in the crypto space. The reality is this: we want to press forward with the idea as much as possible for decentralization. At least that's where I'm at. And the reason for that is because these centralized entities have never done, at least in my estimation, much of anything good for me. Okay. Had to talk to the bank earlier today. Very simple. What ultimately was a very simple transaction between one card and another card within the same bank. They made this whole thing like a huge deal, like they couldn't just click a button. These centralized entities, they want to be able to hold your funds, make interest on it for as long as possible, and they don't ever care if you're on the bad end of the deal. That's just how it feels anyway. So we'll see we'll see if he actually gets held accountable. We'll find out. Let's take a look at the charts, and I'll have you guys dive in. We'll talk about some alts because that's what we're here for. That's what the people are here for. The global market is at 848.66. Let me update this, make sure we're still good. 850.93 billion with a B dollars. That's up 0.44%. Bitcoin's at 17,179, up a little bit over 1%. ETH 1272. I swear it's been at 1272 for 2 weeks. Seems like it's just been sitting there. BNB just under $300 at 275, and then running down the top 10. The biggest mover in the top 10 looks to be Dogecoin, down 1.84%. Ladies and gentlemen, this is still the bear market. It's going to be for a while, in my estimation. And the facts are that, things are going to be slow. Things are going to be boring. So let's start off. Let's kick it off with Forrest. I want to start with you. Let's look at macro wise before we get into just straight alts. Give me an estimation, give me an idea of kind of what you're seeing in the markets. I want to hear from you and CVO, and then we'll dive into some specific alts and plays there.
Yeah, for sure. Let me throw on my charts. Can you guys see my screen all right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so from a macro perspective, the thing that matters right now is, as CVO mentioned, our CPI data coming in tomorrow and the rate hike on Wednesday. I'm of the opinion that the market can actually rally here if we get good data, but I think it's going to be a little bit data dependent. And I actually think that the market wants to rally to some degree. I have been saying this for a long time here. The first 3 quarters of this year are historically speaking the worst 3 quarters to be exposed to the general macro market in existence. It's a midterm election year. And the best quarters that you could possibly be exposed to the market for are Q4 of a midterm election year and Q1 of the following year. 15% is the average returns of the S&P 500 post midterm election, which we just got on November 7th. So right around there, we're already up 6.5%. 15% in the 6 months after a midterm election is the average returns of the S&P 500. And people are like, well, what about this recession? The times are bad. War in Russia and Ukraine. It's like that data that analysis goes all the way back to the year 1900. That's through recessions, through wars, through pullbacks, through inflation, through disinflation. It's just through everything, right? We still in a midterm election year expect that bump afterwards. So yes, it's a bad look for 2023 is what a lot of people are predicting, some sort of a hard landing. But I do think that we may be in the Goldilocks zone where as the Fed starts to what I call is a secondary pivot, right? So you have 3 pivots, in my opinion. Your first pivot is a pivot in speech and sentiment from hawkish to dovish. We've gotten that. Okay. The next pivot is a reduction in rate hike, the pace of rate hikes. That's what we're on pace for. It's looking like we're going to get a reduction from 75 basis point rate hikes to 50 basis point rate hike, assuming CPI doesn't come in too hot. And then your third actual pivot, right, that everybody talks about being super bearish because the market generally falls, right, bottoms after a hard pivot. That's the actual when they start reducing rates. And I think we're still a ways away from the Fed actually coming in and cutting rates. I think that could be 2 to 3, 4 months down the line. Now, in the meantime, S&P 500 here, finding support on the 21-week simple moving average, which is different from what we've seen in these previous retests, right? Before, we've just gotten rejected and held resistance at the 21-week simple moving average. This time, we've now reclaimed it, and so far, we're holding support. This is telling me that this is a little bit different than what the test that we've seen before. The market has a propensity or a desire to go upwards, and we're just getting compression between support and resistance, right? So I think we're going to see some compression, and the catalyst that may break us out of this would be the CPI data, print, and potentially 50 basis point rate hike. I do want to share this other chart This is, and I need to throw on S&P 500 on a new price scale. There we go. This is new highs in the New York Stock Exchange minus new lows, right? So the number of stocks making new highs minus the number of stocks making new lows. And when this goes above the 0 level, which I've got charted out here in green, this is green horizontal level. When this breaks its downtrend and starts, and more stocks start making new highs than new lows, right? That usually marks and indicates a bottom. And we've recently crossed over around our last bottom in the S&P 500.
Wow.
And we're starting to see the new highs minus the new lows turn positive. Now, today we were at minus 23. That means 23 more stocks made new lows than new highs, despite an update. So I think the CPI print tomorrow and the subsequent rate hike decision that we get on Wednesday is going to be incredibly important and dictate whether or not we start going back down a little bit or can actually pump. But I do think that the market can see a rally here if we get okay data in line with what we expect or better data than what we expect.
One of the things I love about, thank you, Forrest. One of the things I love about having you on is you bring some heat in a different perspective sometimes. I've never seen that chart brought up. I've never seen that comparison brought up. Maybe it's just because I'm a noob as it comes to trading, right? Or maybe it's just something different that a lot of people don't bring up. But I like it, and I think that a lot of times in the crypto space we focus so much just solely on crypto when the reality is, if you haven't been paying attention, folks. The crypto markets are still very much in tune and in line with, the New York Stock Exchange. And that's just a fact. We've still been kind of, been attached to its belt loop, so to speak. And so I am really interested to see, we see all of these, announcements, Fed hikes, dovish, hawkish, whatever the CPI data looks like, all of that. None of that was made or intended for the crypto markets. That is a newer phenomena. And what happens? We respond very similarly with risk on assets as per being crypto versus other risk on assets. So CVO, what are your thoughts on the market overlook overall before we dive into some alts? Are you of the same type of thinking as Forrest was, or do you have other thoughts?
So it's kind of going back off of what I was talking about last Thursday with Miguel you in CryptoFace, yeah.
Yep.
So we were looking at before, I remember he was in that huge position. He's probably gotten closed it out or maybe got stopped out at profit at that point. But a couple of things I was looking at was this this monthly level up here at about like $18,000. We were looking at holding above, and this is just Bitcoin, right? So obviously Bitcoin's going to lead the market in a sense over the coming weeks and months and every day, I suppose. But we had the weekly open, which oddly enough is once again this week's weekly open. So we literally remained in the maybe a $5 window between last week and this week on the Sunday to Monday open. That level was pretty much the area we really wanted to see held on a daily basis, right? So you can kind of come over here and see how well respected up until about, I think this was Thursday. So that night came up above, and you can see how we've not closed back below. Even today, we wicked down pretty nicely, back down to like 16,880, depending on what exchange that you're looking at. I'm looking at Bybit because that's where we trade. But at the end of the day, we still closed back above that weekly open there once again. So it's pretty indicative, that we still, you're in the area right now where we still have the potential for the upside, right? So, and then what does that kind of lean towards in the short term? And for me, it's going to be this monthly area up here, about $18,000 at least, potentially a little bit higher than that, but at least for now. Now when we talk about like timing and things of that nature, right, where you just talked about how SBF just got arrested and what have you, we're going into the Asia session, or we're in there already for tonight. You got London, and then you have the New York tomorrow, obviously right as the CPI data gets released. Yep. The recipe is there to really have this sideways action has obviously been pretty choppy, and in our trading group we've actually traded this quite often, and Ethereum's another one we were looking at, and had quite a few moves over the last week. Just like you said, if you've just been holding these assets for the last month and a half, you've made $0 effectively, right? This goes back all the way to like November, pretty much in the same area you're at. So, but however, taking a look at this, we were looking at a couple of different angles. So looking at this in the sense of where we were, right? So coming into this today was a really interesting one. Right, so we had our previous week data here. You basically opened right here, basically just rotated it down, got your golden pocket, nailed it right there, and then you just rotated the range once again. So on a low time frame, that's really all we've done is just kind of rotate through the last week's range. So once again, really paying attention for that weekly open to hold, and then essentially, take out this area for continuation about 17,264. Really start closing up above like 17,300 for the upside. Another thing we were looking at on last stream was our high time frame regression tool, right? So as you can see, pretty much catches the lows really nicely, come through, claim the heart line. Where'd we go back to? Right to the heart line again. This was once again Thursday night, back to like 16.6, give or take. And then right now we're kind of cruising around. So paying attention to where things kind of start to align, which this is the area I was talking about where this was for Wednesday or Thursday. Comes back up to the top. Now it doesn't have to hit it perfectly. Obviously, we wick through and things of that nature. But the timing of this is aligned with if we were to see a move up to here tomorrow, it would make sense to come up to this region and pay attention to see if you get a rejection. And I'd kind of given that idea, right? We have this region, and then you have the overall golden pocket. There's a lot of things actually stacked up here, like 19,150. So if we did make it up to this region, this would be a really big area to be paying attention for. But not to overlook this 18K. So I'm just painting a picture here, right? If we were to somehow see this move up tonight into tomorrow into the CPI news, SBF's arrested now, like. Once again, the news, in my opinion, sometimes gets everybody to hold the bag at the top because it seems like everything's going to, be good again, and things continue straight up. When you still have the recipe to, come right back down, effectively take those, finish out the year a little bit lower, scare everybody out, whatever, and then maybe we march up into next year, right? So just an idea at the moment. Regardless, 18K, remains a high statistical target for many reasons for me. Obviously, that would, outline the rest of the markets getting a decent move. It's really not even that far of a move for Bitcoin, which is comical, right? It's like a 5% rally that we're, really talking about here. Yeah. Possibly 12% up to, this 19,150 area. But in the short term, those would be the areas. And then, of course, you start flipping these things and you can kind of carry on from there. But I'm in the camp that if we run up to these regions, we'll probably get a decent pullback, and then we have a ton of things below us still. So this is one of those things, right, where you kind of want to pay attention to what you got below you, what you're leaving behind. We got all these untapped daily areas down here. We've got a golden pocket lines up with one of those as well. We've got just a liquidity grab is what a lot of people tend to call it, right? So there's a lot of liquidity down here in this region. So just something to pay attention for. Definitely looking for, this region if it gets hit. And, if we start to clear that, that's the key. One thing to also pay attention to is that you do have the recent high right here, comes in right at that monthly level also. So one of the old SFPs, or once again, people call it the fake out, the liquidity grabs, whatever you want to call it. Basically, you come up and you stop everybody out from a month ago before the actual, move gets underway, is on the table, right? So that's what I'm looking at.
It's thank you, CVO. It's wild. I've talked about this before. It's almost as if there's a game plan involved here with these charts. I'll tell you what, it's wild. I think that the news coming in, because I do pay so much attention to the news, I think that the timing is always interesting. I've always been in the camp that you can't plan for wild news happening, but it's amazing how many times you and Magic in particular have told us, hey, look, this is kind of what we're looking at, boom, bam, slam. And then some news will correlate with that. Many of you have probably heard I'll show you the charts and I'll tell you the news or whatever. And I think that as long as I've been in the camp that, that's not really true. I actually more and more I see it. I think it's a very interesting phenomena. So we'll see tomorrow as we get the CPI numbers, what that looks like. We'll see how it affects the market. Obviously, if the numbers are too high, then you would assume, right, Forrest, that if it comes in, those CPI numbers are too high, there's a very likely, there's a lot of likelihood, at least from how they've been speaking, that they won't ease off to a 50 basis points hike. They'd probably stay at 75 if the numbers were too high. Wouldn't you assume?
Yeah, I mean, so last time Jerome Powell came out to talk, he was a little bit more on the dovish side and almost confirmed 50 basis points to some degree. Now, that seems like that's what they want to do. That seems like the plan going forward. But if CPI comes out hot, all of a sudden they've got to make a kind of a game time decision in a short period of time of whether or not they're going to go 75 basis points or 50 basis points. Right now, the prediction markets have, I believe, a 73% chance of them going with a 50 basis point rate hike. And look, if they go up to a 75 basis point rate hike, part of the reason why that's so bearish is because it paints a picture of, okay, so it's becoming harder. Inflation is stickier and stickier. It's painting a picture of, all right, we're going to have to keep these rates higher longer. And it's increasing the chances of a hard landing or a harder landing in 2023, a more recessionary landing and just a tougher time in 2023 overall. So we definitely want to see 50 basis points tomorrow if you're a bull.
I'm thinking we're probably going to see that, but again, it truly is speculation. I think there's obviously people in the background that know, kind of have an idea what the numbers are, where they're at, and they know what we're walking into. But yeah, I'm expecting 50 basis points tomorrow. Let me just take a brief pause. First of all, if you're not in the Danger Close Alpha ecosystem, make sure that you jump in, get involved with one of the factions. Definitely do that. Our Discord is absolutely popping. Actually, candidly, it's been a little bit slow lately. So Discord people, let's have some fun in the Discord. We're looking forward to doing this, to starting this game. We're giving away 5 Ethereum. So all you have to do is be a holder. Right now, the commodities are being minted. We're up, I think, 1,022 of 2,500 that we're minting. So we need to get to that 2,500. All the clues are scattered throughout. We need all the 2,500 of those to go away so that we can do the game for the 5 Ethereum. So get involved with that. DangerCloseAlpha.com if you're looking to mint. And I want to say one more thing. Kenton, I see you in the chat. I knew we weren't gonna have time tonight doing all the TA stuff. So I literally spun earlier tonight, and Kenton, you have won a Purifier Tactical Firestarter, brother. So I will get with you privately. I'll get your address. Congratulations. That is as part of purchasing a number of commodities, and that's in celebration of us hitting 1,000, hitting the number 1,000. So Kenton, you've got a Purifier Tactical Firestarter headed your way, brother. So congratulations on that. Nice. All right, cool. Let's dive back into the altcoins, the 1,000Xs that my boys over here are going to bring up for you. So let's kick it off with this. CVO, excuse me. So we know kind of what the overall market, what we think is happening. Pause, hold that thought. Somebody wants to remind you all something.
We interrupt this broadcast for
my daughter Addison. She wants to remind everybody to be your own bank. Okay, don't let these centralized exchanges steal all of your money. Don't get SBF'd. Put your stuff in a hardware wallet. We've got a ledger link down below the stream. Can you say hi to everybody? You say hi. Okay, that's that.
Don't get SBF'd. That should be a shirt.
Don't get SBF'd. So we kind of know what both of you think about the overall macro content of the market. I think that when we're in a bear market, if you've never been in one before, it's kind of scary with the altcoins, at least for me. I am very, very slow to dive into anything altcoin related. This is me personally, unless it's something that I absolutely believe in long term. Either that's partnered with anybody and everybody, something like Chainlink, or something that I feel like solves real problems that is a top tier project, maybe something like Polkadot, just throwing out a couple ideas there. But talk to me about maybe something a little bit more fringe. I want each of you to bring up, maybe do a little charting on an altcoin that might be, let's say, outside of the top 10, something that maybe somebody isn't used to seeing every day. CVO, you think you can pop off something like that offhand?
Yeah. So this let me pull up something here. So I've covered this one before on here.
Keep them on their toes, ladies and gents. I keep them on their toes.
So Near protocol, right? So and this is an interesting one because I think that Near is somewhat wrapped into the Alameda. I think it is. Maybe it's not. Who knows? But this has been one for me where let me share this. Has kind of presented some really big opportunity. Hasn't necessarily made it through. I just shared that there. Okay.
We like opportunity.
Yeah. So I mean, it was, and once again, this is one of those things where, you know, I know that everybody's really itching to get to the like what's going to be the Solana or the Matic or the the 50 100x, and we joke about the 1000x gainers and these things, and that time frame I think is came and gone for quite a while. And if you're going to be looking for anything that's going to do that, it's you really have to keep like an open mind to where you are just like you're walking into a startup company, right? So if you were to line up even in the beginning of 2021, 10 altcoins and, take a guess at which one was going to run 300x, I doubt you would have ran into Solana and things like, I don't even know if Quant made it in that realm, but I know it did, extremely well. You had things like Cardano from back in the previous bull run, ran 100x. But, you had all these other coins and projects that had the same, fundamentals and same, not necessarily the same chart, I guess, but like, XRP did not. Obviously, it ran into the SEC case. So, was that what it was? Or, you also had Litecoins and Bitcoin Cashes and all these other projects, Tron, that like did not move pretty much from, where they had already been. And then you had things like Cardano that just blasted off. And then you had things like Solana, obviously, that took off pretty well. To me, I think it's a little too much at this point to try to like anticipate those. And if you are, you're kind of taking a little bit of a gamble at the moment, and it's going to be probably years before those levels are achieved. So in the interim, I think back to the bear market of 2018. The XRP time is like one of the biggest ones I bring up all the time, where you had so many opportunities where XRP ran from 15 cents to 30 cents, back to 15 cents to 30 cents, and that's 100% up and 50% down. And had you capitalized on some of that, just kind of cashing out, buying back in at lower area, or transitioning that into Bitcoin, and then moving around in that. And, you have to manage your positions essentially if you're going to try to capitalize on any of the short-term moves until you get the complete just up only season. But yeah, for Near, all that alludes to the idea here that this is more of a short-term idea too, right? So this is not something I see that I would just say, oh, buy this at $1.60 or buy it at 60 cents. And, this is definitely going to be 100x in 3 years. I don't know if it's even going to be around, but in the short term, there's opportunity here, and this is what I'd be looking for. So with Near, very similar to things like Solana. We covered that quite a bit. Decentraland, things of that nature. It's a newer project. This is on Binance chart. I pulled the global range here, so that's basically the volume profile for the entire price action, right? So it goes all the way back to inception, or not inception, but when it got listed on Binance at least, right? And this can vary a little bit depending on what exchange you're looking at, how much information is there. But where we are at, you got a overall low coming in here. And this is kind of in the short term, right? Like going back to the idea of like, if we get a rally over the next couple of days or maybe a week or so, you kind of have to anticipate that, there is levels to the upside here that still would come up and do nothing. You'd have a high, lower high, lower high. Let's just say we run up to this monthly level as well. Get that 18K Bitcoin, get that. I got a level here marked for Ethereum as well, but you run it up to this region. It's about 30% pump right here. A rejection from here could take us all the way down to the overall value area low, right? So the range low comes in about 68 cents. Right now we're at like $1.60. So that would be a pretty drastic move. And this is just, putting it out there that this could be a potential 70% decline. So, is this the thing I'd buy today, buy right now? Probably not. But if, keep it on your radar, because if it's, start getting alerts down in this region, maybe it's something you want to take a risk on, whatever. And from here, note that I have this golden pocket brought up. So there are a ton of targets to the upside. And if we break through even these regions, there's, even higher areas. But something to just kind of, we're just kind of giving those speculative ideas here, right? Something that's just not in the top 100, not in the or top 10, whatever it is. But I'm actually looking for this to facilitate, this harmonic pattern right here. Which even though we, could see a push up right into this region, if you get the rejection and you come down, the range low kind of aligns well with our D leg down here. And this is actually a bullish pattern when this does complete, if it completes. And that's the big thing. This is just like, an inverse head and shoulders. It's not necessarily something you just trade off of right now. You want to wait till this completes and get the confirmation that you're not going lower. You start seeing a bounce, this and that. And the result of this actually takes you back up to the golden pocket area, which would be this B leg. So that could be a potential, and once again, just if you get there, that's a pretty big opportunity in the short term. And that's a
300% mover. If you saw something like that, assuming that it played out perfectly,
right,
and with 20x leverage, I mean, come on now. Now all of a sudden we got 6,000% gains, baby. Let's go.
Even no leverage though. I mean, like, that's just like no leverage sweats. Like you're just looking, like at this point, all altcoins are in the same position where everything could still just, drop another 50, 60, 70%. Obviously that would be, in tie with, if Bitcoin saw some lower levels as well, Ethereum has levels like that also. But yeah, I mean, it's just things that, this is something I'm kind of watching for. Like I said, in the short term, still could see like a 30, 40, 50% push out of something like Near. And once again, news, right? How many people would be not willing to sell at this region, especially if you're already down? But then, if you were to hold on to that and this facility, comes through, that's a really big drop to just hold through. And how many people do you think would sell out under 60 cents or 70 cents, right at the low, right? And that's just how it goes. So that's just something I'm personally looking for. If we get it, we'll get it. But otherwise,
it happens all the time. CVO, thank you for that. It happens all the time where, and I've seen it and I've done it. So I am absolutely a perfect person to talk about this, where the move happens that was called for, and then it just feels too good to let go of, and you feel good, and it's greed. That's, for me at least. Let me speak for myself. For me, it has been greed in the past that has literally stopped me out of making more money in trades than I otherwise would have, and just being a little bit more, reserved on what I do. So I want to ask you, Forrest, speaking of that, is there any, I'm going to have you bring up an alt that you're looking at here in just a second. But before I do, is there anything that you do differently as it relates to how you look at these alts? Is there something that you do before, during, after a trade that with some of these alts that's any different, or is it the exact same strategy as you otherwise trade with other tokens?
Yeah, great question. No, so for anybody out there who is like a poker player, I'll make this analogy. When you're playing poker, you can be an extraordinarily profitable poker player playing really basic ABC strategy if you're playing with bad poker players, right? You see guys all the time that make a killing in poker at high stakes, at nosebleed stakes, but they're not the most, they're very far from the most decorated best players. They're just playing with super rich people that like to gamble. So that's called game selection. And when it comes to like selecting altcoins to be trading, especially at a time like this, we want to take it. We like altcoin selection or like chart selection matters a lot. So I'll go ahead and share my, kind of a brief overview of my process for this.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you ever heard the term, like there's always a bull market somewhere, right? There's always a bull market somewhere. So we're looking at dominance charts here, and I track what cryptocurrencies right now are eating up market share in this bear market. Now we're in a bear market where we're just seeing value leave the space. Like it's just like people are still selling off tokens, but some are being sold off much more aggressively than others, and some are actually being accumulated and holding their dominance, or actually increasing in market share against the rest of the market. So I've mapped out, quite a few. Chainlink historically, where's Chainlink on here? This blue one right here. Chainlink historically has, at least last bear market, performed really well in terms of market share in the bear market, and it ran against everything. It was last bear market for crypto was a Chainlink bull market. Mm-hmm. So we want to set, if we are looking for longs at least, right? And I think shorts are a little bit, if you're short biased right now, you're trading with the overall trend, which is down, but this trend has been fairly extended and there is a high risk of being stopped out. So I actually think that at this point in time, generally we would want to trade with the trend and look for shorts, but I think it now 50-50 bias and actually looking for some longs here and there is completely fine. If we're looking for something to trade from a long bias perspective, we can just look at what coins here are, what altcoins are eating up market share against the rest of the market. And you look at Quant Network here. Quant has just been, all the way since 2019, it has been a quant bull market. And even recently here, since our lows, right? Since our lows in mid-June, right? We had a really big pullback. Yep. And then now we're just eating up market dominance again. We actually recently came off an all-time high in Quant's market dominance, or its market share. So Quant is making all-time highs as measured against the rest of the basket of cryptocurrencies, or against the rest of the market. So I'm actually going to pull up a weird chart here. I'm going to pull up, if I can find it here, oil, right?
Okay.
Because I'm speculating that there may be somewhat of a similar pattern here. And for some reason, my chart's getting cut off. Let me refresh that. My chart's not loading all the way up on oil, but there's a pattern here. This is called Livermore's speculative chart. It's a little bit old. It's a little bit, I don't know if it's super traditional. However, we've seen it play out before very, very cleanly this past year with oil, and that is super weird. That let me try to pull this up one more time, and otherwise I'll just have to explain it. Bitcoin, we'll pull up crude oil. Yeah, my chart.
They don't want you to be able to. They don't want you to bring all this alpha on one stream. They're like, there's too many people watching this alpha to be able to bring it all up. Is that bringing it?
Yeah, it's bringing it up. Sweet. So yeah, oil. So what we got back in 2021 after we recovered out of our COVID lows for oil was what this Livermore's chart refers to as an accumulation cylinder, where you have this widening gap and then you just full send. You just full send. So one more time, you get this accumulation cylinder, and you get just a big blow off top.
Boom.
And when we go to the quant network chart, which we know is actually in terms of dominance, has been in an uptrend for a very long period of time, since 2019, but particularly since these June lows, where it's just rallied against the rest of the market. This to me looks like a potential accumulation cylinder that could full send. Now, I'm not saying that that's going to happen. My confirmation for that happening is that we actually need to take out this resistance here. You see this potential head and shoulders pattern, and I'm going to draw it out right there. That's what we don't want. And it depends. If you're bullish on QNT long term, you actually might want this, so we can go back and accumulate between $60 and $80 somewhere around this support region. So if this happens, if you're bullish on QNT, which I actually am bullish on QNT long term, I'll be accumulating down here. But if we actually get good CPI data, 50 basis point rate hike, and the rest of the market starts running, and we see people pile into QNT, and it breaks through this resistance, makes support on top of it, I'm going to be buying that as a confirmation. On the chance, again, we don't know for sure if this is going to full send, but we have probabilities. As a trader, you're just trading probabilities, right? If you can be right with a certain degree of likelihood, above 50%, you're going to be profitable. Technically, you can actually be right like 20 to 30% of the time, and if you have appropriate risk management in place and you're realizing more when you win, you're realizing more reward or gains than you lose, and you're cutting your trades short, you can actually be profitable and be wrong most of the time, which is a lot of people don't understand that. Now, we also have some really interesting, there's head and shoulders and inverse head and shoulders all over this chart. We had the inverse head and shoulders already kind of play out a little bit, and that sent us to the top of what I'm speculating is this accumulation cylinder. But we also, if we kind of broaden this out a little bit, we may be in a larger inverse head and shoulders. And this could actually, if we see this level taken out and this plays out and we start gaining some volume and some speed here, this could be the right shoulder, right? Whereas we thought this was the right shoulder, it's come back down. And if we don't break down here into this head and shoulders, right, and we hold this inverse head and shoulders, this could be a really solid setup for something that has put in not new all-time highs, but new all-time highs in dominance, and has already seen a really, really massive run here, right? 468, 469%. There's a reason, there's an underlying reason. In my opinion, when I look at a chart and it's just ignoring the rest of the market, and it's a bear market and it's almost up 500% from low to high, there's a reason people are buying this, and it's ignoring the correlation with the rest of the market. And I want to be a part of that, right? I want to add fuel to that fire. I want to be a part of that uptrend. So right now we are trending upwards. We've just really recovered this range, but in terms of dominance, we are trending upwards, and I want to trade with the trend here. So if we get this breakout this week, I'm going to be jumping in, looking to push this thing higher. If we break down, just like, we get bad data, then that's fine. I may even look for a short, but otherwise I'll be just looking to accumulate lower. So QNT, I think, has an asymmetric risk reward ratio of, when it comes to like chart selection, if we want to be biased towards a certain chart, I think this is a really attractive chart for people who are bulls, especially if you're a bull on QNT.
Thank you for sharing that. I love the market dominance and looking at that. Basically, if it's going against the rest of the market, it's probably something you should pay attention to. I will tell you, there's been a lot of talk specifically with QNT, with Quant, that has suggested that a big part of the reason that we are seeing or have been seeing such big moves has been advertising revenue. And I thought it was an interesting, thing for people to throw around and talk about. But come to find out, they had been, at least as of, I think, last month, dumping about 50 to 75K a month into advertising. And I think that in the crypto space, one of the things that we also need to be aware of, this is in NFTs, this is in crypto. I mean, this is really anywhere in life, right? Those advertising dollars are more than anything to familiarize people with an asset, with a project, with a company, whatever the case may be. And with the market, I think it's an interesting strategy, because with the market being dead, and people, I say dead, but you know what I'm saying, people are getting bored and whatever the case may be, I think it's an interesting strategy. Look, a lot of the people that want to pay influencers, and I thought this through about Quant in particular a couple of weeks ago, a lot of these companies want to pay the influencers to talk about their projects. When do they want to do it? Well, they want to do it during the bull market. Well, I think the interesting thing is, what if they took a little bit different approach? And it looks like Quant had been doing some of this. Now, everything is kind of, died down, slowed down, this, that, and the third, whatever the case may be. And then you blast a bunch of ad dollars into a kind of quiet market. I think you get a lot of attention that way. So I think that would be an interesting strategy. And I would be interested to see how much. I mean, you'll never know. Obviously, there's probably no chart to show that, but I do know that their advertising dollars have been way up during this bear market, and looks like maybe some of that has been working well. I want to take a quick pause. Somebody had asked about the winning the 5 Ethereum, so I want to throw this out there. Danger Close Alpha, dangerclosealpha.com if you're looking to mint. Just to make it really simple, to win the 5 Ethereum, I'm going to break it down real quick. We've got a game that we're going to be playing once we mint out. There are clues within the NFTs. There are clues coming from myself and Crusader, and there are clues coming from other influencers that we will spotlight each week. You as a team, you as a faction will work together to figure out whatever the little riddle is for that week, and you will try to be the first to get that answer. At the end of the 5 weeks, whichever faction has effectively 2 weeks or more and has won more than the other squads, that team is then going to go to the wheel. The number of NFTs that you have bought, the number of commodities that you have bought, your name will be on the wheel that many times. So the more commodities you buy, if you're assuming that you're on the winning faction, the more likelihood you have of winning the 5 Ethereum. So that's kind of the breakdown. And F you, I see you again. 5 whole tenths? No. 5 whole Ethereum. All right, so gents, before we break out of here this evening, first of all, this has been a fantastic stream. Not only did we find out that SBF got arrested, we've been waiting for that, but we have CPI data coming in tomorrow. We've got the Fed meeting on Wednesday. I'd love to get just a little piece. I always try to bring things back to basics. I'll start with you, CVO. If you were going to give just a little piece of advice to people that are looking to further themselves in the trading in their trading ventures, what would it be? And then after that, tell everybody where they can find you if they're looking to get more instruction on trading with you.
Yeah, so can I actually show my ETH chart? I meant to do this earlier before we finish up, because I think it's an interesting one before we get into that. And then I can kind of lead into your question there to kind of finish it off. The suggestion I pretty much always lean into is, everybody wants to be a trader. And, the biggest thing is that it's going to take you probably a few years, at least 3, to actually be a profitable trader and things of that nature. And there comes a lot of responsibility and other stressors that come with that. But to me, it's kind of goes back to what we just talked about during the near explanation. Like, if you see moves, or if you're involved in projects or anything investing wise, and you see some really big impulses, especially when the market around you is not in a good place, right? So say we get that push, down to 60 cents and then up to whatever, and you get a 300% gain. Just kind of sit back and rationalize with yourself and, understand that, you could very well easily lose that just as quick. It goes right back down just as quick as it goes up. The bull markets that, that we're, used to right now are definitely not here at the moment. You do get those bear market rallies. They can, be small, they can be big, whatever the case is. But one thing I always kind of recommend too is like if you are in a project that explodes, decently, it doesn't even have to explode 100, 200%, but even if it's 50%, whatever, and it's on the week or the day, or Dogecoin does that quite often, honestly. Pay yourself and pretend you missed that move almost. You know what I mean? Because like that's the biggest thing is you see other projects and other things, blowing up all around you all the time, and you're holding something that didn't move. So you miss out on things all the time. And if you actually, manage to be in the right one and it gets a pretty big move, pay yourself along the way. Don't get upset if it keeps going any higher. There's always another opportunity. And as far as like trading goes, practice with small amounts, right? Like take $20 and turn it into $30 and, do that 10 times or whatever the case is, or, give yourself a goal, give yourself like a whole month of actively, seeing how the markets move. They do move differently every single day of the week, right? So Sunday and a Monday, you get a lot more volatility than you're going to get on Friday night or Saturday, especially. And, kind of journal your experiences, journal your ideas, your thoughts, and see what the results are. And I guarantee that's going to, help you, become a better trader, investor, maybe in other aspects of life as well. But I do want to take a look at ETH. And piecemealing everything together, right? So we looked at Bitcoin a moment ago. You got the two news catalysts coming up. So far, it looks to me that SBF getting arrested didn't have anything, to do with the market at the moment, right? So whatever, if that's the case or not. But once again, levels above us right now for ETH. We've had a trend, a sideways trend for quite some time. This is after the November 9th crash. Right now, we've got our current high comes in right here at about 1351. Another statistical target that I've been eyeballing for quite a while comes in right here. So in the short term here, we are living up at the high side of the range, so to speak, and, consolidating right below. I used to be a pattern guy back in the day, right? So that's where I got my roots from. And anybody looking at this, can start dressing up the old inverse head and shoulders deal. And that's sloppy, but you get the idea there. And, measured move off of this, right? Just for P's and G's. Is going to take it up to what have you right there at the old untapped monthly target. Now that's just a basic little pattern idea there, but let's throw on some other things here, right? So, right, let's see what we got here. So we got the overall high time frame range comes into play here as well. As you'll notice, we're basically consolidating right under the point of control. So this is the highest traded volume area for almost the last couple months here. You'll note that the high comes in just a little bit of this region. Once again, if something was to unfold where we, end up kind of making a move up to this region, it's going to effectively take out anybody that's been shorting for quite a while, right? And, possibly still run the idea of doing absolutely nothing more than you got a high, come in and make another lower high. We do have a big golden pocket right above here as well. And that comes in right there at about 1468. And something to just kind of keep in mind, because if we do get a decent push out of Bitcoin, we were talking about what, a 5 or 6% move. You can almost double that most times for Ethereum, right? Not all the time, but you still got the pretty nice target here, about 5% away, and then you got a 12% move puts you up at this golden pocket. So once again, I'm bringing up the ideas for some pretty big rejection areas, and these are the ones you want to get through to continue onward and upward. But if we come up to these regions, you got to, know that everybody's going to get really excited, things of that nature. And once again, the news could possibly have everybody holding the bag at the high, at the local highs here. And then once again, kind of taking a look at this high time frame regression. I mean, you can't make it up, right? How the high side of this comes in right at these, levels here. This monthly level right here is pretty much in the middle. So it's definitely an area I'm looking for. It's definitely a target of mine on the way up. But potentially, we could take this all the way up to maybe 1450 if that's the case. Obviously losing that, coming down. The lower targets here for me, I've been looking for quite some time, right? And that is, let's see here. Kind of zoom this back out. We're going to take a look at the untaps here. And one of those comes in down here at $1,038. All right. It essentially comes down right here. This is an untapped daily from back in June, I believe, July. So when we came down here in June and July, you came down and you basically bounced right off of 880, which at right below that is actually an inefficiency in the market called a single print. So if we do open up that can of worms right here, that's a quick move down to the devil's basement, right, is what we call it. And we'll cover that in another stream. We've covered that quite a bit. But either way, I'm not necessarily saying we're going to get that quite yet. But I'm really going to be anticipating or monitoring the reaction if we come down to this region down here, 1,037. All right. Some other pit stops along the way, right? It's not just straight down and whatnot. And just to kind of clarify, as far as upside, you really want to clear that golden pocket, 1450 and change. You start clearing that, holding it. Then we got, levels to the upside. We got weekly key levels up in this region. I mean, there's a ton of targets up here, but to me, the most, the one that you really want to pay attention to, especially coming into this week of news, I think it's impeccable, the timing. And the last thing on timing I'll take a look at is this one other idea. But yeah, so potentially a move to the upside here, right, to get to the monthly level here. You also got that golden pocket we just talked about. All right. And then one bigger idea here I have been looking for is the potential for, yet again, another harmonic pattern, right? So this comes into play where very similar to that near idea. And this is something you can't, once again, really don't want to hammer in the idea this has to happen. This is just an idea. This is no different than a falling wedge or whatever the case is, right? You really want to wait. You have to, you can't really put this into play until you come down to this level. So in the interim, you can't just marry that. We're going to go straight down from here. But to get to this target, you very well could see something like this and then come all the way down to this region. This D leg does meet up with the 886 of this region, which would effectively knock out everybody. I mean, if you're longing Bitcoin or Ethereum at this point, you more than likely have your stop loss right below these lows right here, because the next low is like 16% below that. So most people probably aren't, going with 20 and 30% stop losses, especially if it's on leverage.
Yeah.
So it's something to really be aware of. This timing could possibly come in towards Christmas, right? So, and then from there, you get another big move like we were looking at with near. If this comes through, big ifs, really remaining neutral as possible on this. But that would possibly, take you all the way back up to your B leg, golden pocket, and then kind of goes along with how Forrest was talking about Q1 of next year, right? So Q1 possibly being one of the better times of being invested in the market and things of that nature. So just an idea I'm really monitoring. Once again, not something to fall in love with, but definitely think that the recipe is there for over the next week and a half here to push up to some of these levels. Get really everybody excited for possibly 15%. You can imagine that's going to double across the board for altcoins. If near pushes up to those targets, that's 30%. Doge has some pretty high targets. Everything correlates to these areas is like 15 to 30% moves, which would incite the market, right? And if you got no bad news from the Fed, and if you have SBF's under wraps and going to meet Prison Mike, I think somebody in the chat said, then it's just something to really, once again, just I'm putting together, I guess, a rough draft of the possibilities here. But yeah, the levels are there, man, and I think that's something that's on the cards here. But then I still would, if we see something like that, we're going to have a few good months, right? It's not like it's going to be sideways and down forever. You're going to get some pops. So that could kind of be what leads us into a nice couple months here. But
well, I got to say, if risk management is some of what I got out of what showing us the opportunity on the way up and then the opportunity on the way down, and possibly capitalizing on both sides of that. I got to tell you that if SBF goes to prison, he better operate with some risk management as well, because like you said, Prison Mike might have a good time with a young man like SBF, but they'll probably put him in PC, protective custody. But yeah. That's a totally different story. Forrest. Oh, hold on a second. Hold up. CBO, where do people find you if they want to learn from you, brother?
You guys can find us at Leading Crypto on YouTube. We also have all of our information in our information boxes on YouTube, and we're about to launch a website here by the next time you see us. So Thursday we'll have that. It'll be leadingcrypto.io. You can actually go there now, nice. But it's just not ready yet for full launch.
Awesome. Pretciate that. So Forrest, what would you say to the people would be a very good thing to, just something simple to help them continue their quest towards trading that might be, smart in the upcoming days and weeks?
Yeah. So the thing that I attribute to helping me become a profitable trader was just a simple exercise. Take $100, put it in a trading account. And look, if you can't afford to trade $100, you can't afford to be trading, period. You shouldn't be trading if you can't afford $100. So take $100, put it in a trading account on an exchange that doesn't have a minimum order. So Bybit's a good one. And make $1 trades. As simple and boring as that sounds.
Make $1 trades.
Yeah.
Wow.
$1 trades, 1% position sizing. You do whatever you want. That's the one rule. You can only trade $1 at a time, and your goal is to make 100 to set a goal, 100, 200, 300 trades, whatever your strategy is, and that's that's it. Your goal is to just the entire exercise is to make trading as boring as possible, because oftentimes it is incredible boring. If you're trying to get a rush out of trading, if you're trying to go all in on 20x leverage, and that's how you blow an account. 1% position sizings are usually 1 to 3% is the guidelines, but for this exercise, 1%, and make $1 trades. Use as much leverage or as little leverage as you want, and just at the end of the really the goal is to only just to be disciplined, and then the secondary goal is to be profitable and develop a strategy. But what you'll find is that you actually get a lot of repetitions and you get better at trading because you're paying attention, you're on the charts, you're making a high volume of trades without the anxiety of losing a lot of money. And the analogy that I make is, if you don't golf, if you've never golfed before, if you've golfed like 5 times, like golf is a really difficult sport.
Oh yeah.
You would literally have to be mentally ill to go out on the golf course, having never swung a golf club before. You watched a couple of videos online of Tiger Woods. Oh, that looks easy. I'm going to go out and I'm going to go play 18 holes and I'm going to bet $10,000 per hole. And you've never practiced. Right. You may have watched instructional videos, but if you've never practiced, you're going to be terrible. You're going to lose all your money betting, on your golf game. Right. So why in the world would you go into the arena with the smartest people in the world? Right. The smartest people in the world are trading crypto and other assets. Like it is a zero-sum game. It's really less than a zero-sum game because you have to pay fees, right? Market making fees and exchange fees. Yeah. So you're already starting out negative EV if you're just, if you have a 50-50 shot of winning on any given trade, and you're battling against the best trader. Every trade you make, there's a counterparty. So you're battling against the best traders in the world. So why would you go out on the PGA Tour betting $10,000 per hole if you've never swung a golf club before? Right. So you have to go in and you've got to put in the time. Go take if you can take $100 account to $120, you making only $1 trades over the course of, a month, 2 months, you are on par to be one of the best. That is really, really good results. And people don't realize that. They see these Twitter accounts doing, 1K to 100K challenges, and one of two things: if they accomplish that, they either took on a huge amount of risk, they may have blown 5, 10, 15, 20 accounts to try to do that, or they're just super, super, super good traders, or they're lying in some way or another, right? If you can make a 100x consistently on a trading account, spoiler alert, no one can. If you could do that at scale, you'd be the richest person in the world. So 1% trades, try to make 20% in a month, 2 months, and you are 20% in a month on a trading account with 1% trades is top tier performance. If you're a beginner trader, you probably will not be able to accomplish that. So just that's the exercise that I would recommend people do.
Dude, I love that. And another thing that I want to throw out there is down below the video, we've got the crypto stackers signals. Those are down below the video. If you're looking to, I know Forrest, you didn't show much of what using your bands this evening. I know you were using them, but you didn't really touch on it much tonight. But let me ask you, Forrest, I'll ask you the same thing as CVO. First of all, I love that analogy. That is a great. I love to play golf, and it can be a very frustrating game. And I used to be really good at it, but guess what? I played all through high school. I was on the team and I played every freaking day. And I went to the country club and I was there and I was there and I was there and I was there. You know what I mean? That was a normal. Now I never play anymore. So when I step out on the course, my game is rusty. And so I love that analogy. That's a great analogy. Where can people find you, Forrest?
Yeah, you can if you're interested in the indicators that I didn't use too much this evening, but a really solid indicator pack. You can go to cryptostackers.pro. We also have a Discord that is super inexpensive to join. It's like $9 a month. We've got a lot of good information in there. A really good community, and it's just crypto focused. So that's at cryptostackers.pro. I believe there's a link in the description below, if I'm not mistaken. Otherwise, you can also find me on YouTube. The channel name is Crypto Stackers, and you can follow me on Twitter if you're interested, at 0xstacker. So,
well,
find me.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. It has been a fantastic stream. Let me pull this back up here. A little bit different format here. Here we go. You guys, as always, have been a pleasure. Thank you for coming on. Any parting words before we go? Before we head into this CPI Fed meeting? Anything you guys want to say before we get out of here?
Just have a great week.
Have a great week. You got anything for us?
Yeah, same. It's gonna be a volatile week. Be prepared. Don't trade emotionally. Just stick to the plan.
Keep the emotions out of it. Just take what Keeper's done for a long time as it relates to trading. Do the opposite. Don't be emotional. Don't be greedy. Do your thing, right? Make some money. Well, crypto fam, we love you. We appreciate you for being here. Make sure to jump into the Discord, get involved, get the opportunity to win 5 ETH. DangerCloseAlpha.com. You literally can spend 0.01 ETH and have the opportunity to win 5 Ethereum. That is a big ROI. If you didn't know, that is a big ROI. That's a 500x ROI. So just throwing that out there. So we love you, fam. Just remember, question everything, trust nothing. And until next time, hodl like it's hot.
Happy holidays.
See you soon, and happy holidays.